So, my little Bruja, I figured that last video I made on defensive modern Satanism and the Romantics' interpretation of Satan as a romantic anti-hero actually got me thinking. Maybe I'll try my hand at religious counseling. Now, I want you to understand, nothing I'm saying in this video is an attempt to get you to change your religion. It's not an attempt to make you feel uncomfortable with yourself or anything like that. But I don't know if you remember when we first met, I used to post a lot about Satanism and I would tell you how much you're like me. You are a lot like me. And that doesn't make you a bad person. I know you don't consider me a bad person. Okay? I know you don't consider me a bad person. But if you remember, I started I just started posting a bunch of things about Satanism to let you understand what it was. And it began to sink in that what you believe is what I believe, to the point where you posted out of anger. You said, apparently everything I believe is evil. And do you remember what I said? I love evil. And there's a popular saying in Satanism that evil is alive spelled backwards. Being alive is very important. Okay? And I want you to understand, you seemed a lot happier when you were you, before you started getting preoccupied with all this religion. And you were always somewhat religious, but when you started getting very preoccupied with religion, and I think I don't exactly know why, because it kind of predates the situation that led to you not talking to me anymore. But you seem to be very unhappy, trying to mesh your views with those of a religion that is against your inner being. And I'm not judging you, but what I thought was interesting, do you remember when you actually blocked me? You did not block me on your one profile because you wanted to keep in touch with me. I was not blocked for I don't know, maybe 6 months, 7 months, 8 months after you blocked me off of your main profile. And then I caught you posting some nonsense about Satanism and how Satanism is really after the Catholic Church and blah, 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 blah. And I called you out on it. And you blocked me after that. I think you didn't want your fellow Catholics to know my views, because you didn't want them to know that you knew somebody with the views that I have. Perhaps because you would think that they would know that you might share some of my views. You have to understand, my dear, people can't see on the inside. They don't know the convictions of your soul. They can say they do, but they don't. So, if you sync yourself up with what you truly believe, nobody needs to know. You can externally be Christian. You can externally celebrate the Christian holidays. Externally go to church. Nobody will be the wiser. All you have to do is be honest with yourself and you will feel miraculously better. I'm telling you that. You were so much happier back when I first met you. And it's sad. Now, as you know, and I'm going to leave links in the description for you to follow, and it's stuff that you're aware of. The 9 satanic statements, the 9 satanic sins, the 11 rules of the earth, etc. And links to different videos, interviews with different Satanists and whatnot. Nothing you haven't seen before, but perhaps you've forgotten. Do you remember I used to call you my little Bruja? Well, what was interesting is after I called you out on the whole misrepresentation of Satanism and nonsense about the Catholic Church and da-da-da-da-da, I noticed that you had in your favorites a video that was an interview with Richard Ramirez. Now, Richard Ramirez is not truly a Satanist, but I think I know why you liked what he had to say. And he's right to an extent. I think you have a problem with getting in touch with your animal self, your natural self. You feel torn between who you are as the real Eliana and who you are as the external Eliana. And you try to push yourselves into things like Immanuel Kant, like Kantian philosophy, and what was the other thing you were way into? G.K. Chesterton and all this stuff. When in reality, you are, as I am, you are a believer in the teachings of Ragnar Redbeard. You know that, and I know that. And the more you deny it, the more schism you'll have between your true self and your false self. You can never truly hide from yourself. The problem with yourself is always there. So it always helps to be honest with yourself. It always helps to be honest with reality. And I think you know that. You're a scientist after all. I mean, I think you know that what I'm saying is accurate. I think, and I'm not trying to change your mind on anything, but I thought, as I said, I thought I'd try my hand at religious counseling. Now, you know I'm not a Satanist. I'm a pantheist. But there's nothing wrong with getting in touch with yourself. And I think that's what you might need to do if you want to feel better. Because as Richard Ramirez said, we're all evil. Are we all evil? That's the question. What does evil mean? As I said, evil, now I'm not quoting Ramirez here, but evil is live spelled backwards. We're all alive for a time. So you have to get in touch with being alive. Okay? And that's the you that you need to get in touch with, is being alive. You don't have to do anything immoral or wrong or mean or nasty. The thing is, what's evil? And this is where I started getting into the 8 laws of health and realizing that sins are that which takes you away from health. But what's interesting is going too far in the opposite direction takes you away from health too. And that's why, if you remember in the satanic statements where LaVey pointed out that Satan represents all of the so-called sins as all deliver you with, physical, mental, emotional gratification. However, if you take them too far, of course they're going to destroy you. But they are, as he deals with in the Satanic Bible, many of these are self-regulating. Although I don't think they're self-regulating enough for most people. And I do think you need the 8 laws of health, the Adventist 8 laws of health. And I'll get into that at a later date. But I really think that you need to get in touch with who you are. One of the things that's kind of wild, like you know this, you were telling me about the Popa. When I first met you, you were not a big fan of the Popa, okay? If you remember, well, I'm not going to get into that. That was a private conversation, and I don't know who watches my videos. But ultimately, you knew what he was about. That's all I'm going to say. And the thing is, look, I had the same deal with my mom with the Catholicism. It's almost impossible if you're a person that loves, well, that might be the wrong word. That might be too powerful of a word. I don't want to get in trouble with, people calling me a pedo. If you care about the health and welfare of children, it's almost impossible to fix that schism between the Catholic Church being basically the world's largest sex trafficking ring, child sex trafficking ring, and pedophile ring in the whole world that somehow gets to operate as an organized religion, and still caring about the health and welfare of children. It's just very difficult to mend that. And one of the first, if you remember, one of the first conversations we got into regarding religion, you were telling me how important it is. I guess I'll say this one publicly. I don't think you care. But other things I think I'll leave out. But you were saying how, you have to be Catholic because you're Latina and blah, blah, blah. And I was explaining to you, you don't need a church to have communion with God. You don't need a church for communion with God. You don't need any intermediaries. And you didn't want to talk about that. And I also brought up the different ways in which Christ is basically a vegetation god. And you didn't want to hear that either. That was your way of telling me, no, 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 we'll be friends, but I'm going to avoid talking about these things. And the thing is, you can't ignore who you really are. If you really are my little Bruja, get in touch with who you are. It doesn't mean you're a bad person just because you enjoy life. It doesn't mean you're a bad person just because you enjoy things in life. Of course, things like alcoholism, and that's also taken care of in Satanism. Drug abuse is not okay in Satanism. But the thing is, what you need to understand, Satanism aside, there's nothing that's beneficial to you if you love your body love your body enough to take care of it, as Greg Doucette says. And I think not enough Satanists actually practice that, is if you love your body, love it enough to take care of it. So that's where you should not be consuming vast or mass quantities of alcohol or tobacco or similar substances. But I mean, the thing is, honey, when you can really get in touch with who you are as Eliana, you will get in touch with reality. You'll be able to see things more clearly, and you won't be so anxious anymore. I can only imagine what it's like trying to always justify every thought you have and everything. The Eliana I knew was a lot different than the current Eliana. That's all I'm going to say. So just keep this in mind. I love you, honey. And even if you're not my little Bruja, I don't care if you're Catholic. I love you the same whether you're Catholic. I love you the same if you're some kind of kooky born-again Christian. I love you the same if you're a Mormon. I love you the same if you're an Adventist. I love you the same even if you were Jewish. I wouldn't care if you were Jewish or Muslim or anything. That does not matter to me. Okay, and that might seem odd, but it really doesn't. I don't really care what religion you are or what have you. If I found out when I came down there that you converted to Islam, I'd be like, well, cool. At least nobody's going to be checking out my chick in public anymore. Not saying you're my chick. You haven't told me you're my chick, but it was a joke. It was a joke. Anyway, why don't you try and get in touch with Eliana and see maybe if Eliana wants to talk to me. That's all. And instead of calling you kiddo, I'll call you my little Bruja.